Hey guys, Mike Toy Bonsai Boise. So I'm just going to do a quick update on some of the trees that I had posted videos on in the past few months and show you how they're doing now, and show you a couple of them struggled a little and a couple of them really took off. So figured I'd do a quick update and also show you the view from my new apartment here. And I know what you're thinking. Why would a guy with 100 bonsai trees move into an apartment? And let me tell you, it was not my first choice, but the market here is crazy, and I'll explain that too here in a second. So follow me, I'll show you these trees, and I'll show you this awesome view that I've got again. All right, welcome back. So why did I move into an apartment? Like I said, it was not my first choice. I looked around for God knows how long for a suitable house with a suitable yard, with a south-facing, backyard and everything. And the market is just insane right now. So there are some of those out there, but the problem that I was running into is A, rent was extremely high. B, prices to buy a house was even higher. And C, no matter what you try to do, whether it was rent or buy or whatever, there's always multiple applications in, and so it's just, you could spin your wheels a lot and get nowhere, which is what I did. So I moved into an apartment temporarily, and I'm gonna try again, hopefully in the winter. I'm thinking things will calm down. But anyways, that's not what this video is about. I do have a cool place here. Let me give you a good look at the view here. So it's a pretty cool view. As you can see, it's not south-facing either, but it was literally the only place that I could get, and I had to be on a 2-month waiting list even just for this. So this is north, east, and west, of course. It's hard to tell because I've got my tables here in the way, but it's a really cool view because you get the sunrise in the morning and then the sunset at night. Now, for how much longer I'll be able to see that, I don't know, because the sun's getting lower and lower this time of year. It's now the beginning of September, so I probably won't get that good of a view of the sunrise and sunset for too long, but for now it's great. And there's no other buildings here. It's just a big open field, and it's just a field. It's not like fields are that exciting, but still kind of cool. Just a big open space, lots to look at, and it's a great location. So anyways, this is the view from where I'm at now. So from here, pardon the mess, but here are some of the trees that I've got. So I'm going to give you a look at a few of them now, just an up close look, and explain kind of how they went, and then I'll do a more in-depth video on some of the other trees, which I still have. All my other trees are just in the same yard that they've been in over at my girlfriend's house. So follow me now, and let's first take a look at this juniper. All right, so let's start with this juniper. So I did a video on this maybe a couple of months ago where I repotted it into this pot, and the look that I was going for, or that I am going for, is kind of a cascading look. So I want it to go kind of like this, and then maybe out this way some more, and then down again, and get some movement to it. And it's really taken off since then. It looks, I'm gonna call it furry, where it's just unruly and furry, like it needs a haircut. So I'm gonna be doing a haircut on this pretty soon, but give you a good look at it here. You can see it's kind of overgrown in certain places. I have some decisions to make. Like right here, looks like this bottom cascading branch splits into two, which is good. So it'll allow me to keep that shape that I had before, where it comes out into a nose here, but then this will be the cascading branch. So that's exactly what I wanted. We've got some really good branching down here. And here's the backside. As you can see, it's just really taken off real well. Almost too well in a lot of ways, because it got so hairy that it blocked out sunlight from some of these branches, and some of the internal branches died off. Which is normal. It happens. But it's a good indication that it's doing well. So I'm real happy with how this one is doing and how it's turning out. So like I said, I'll do a video on it soon, and kind of show you my process for trimming this, so you can see how that goes. But that's a look at the juniper. And here's the dwarf pomegranate. So this one's hanging in there. It did struggle, and I'll say it's a little bit struggling now, but it's not for the normal reasons. What actually happened is that It was out in full sun. It got moved. And it was out in full sun a little bit too soon. So it was indoors for a long time, and then it got moved into full sun too quickly. Whereas normally you want to transition it into the full sun. So you want to take it from indoors, and then you put it outdoors in full shade for a good week or so. And then in partial shade for like another week. And you just want to transition it into full sun. And this guy just inadvertently just kind of got moved around a little bit and got put out into the full sun after maybe 2 days in the shade. And so it suffered a little. So then I put it into what I call rehab. I put it in rehab where it was full shade, kept it moist, and just kind of babied it and nursed it back to health. And then it had another problem, which is that some kind of caterpillar or bug or something started eating leaves. As you can see, hopefully you can see that. Here, I'll just pull that one off. Anyways, so you can see that something was eating the leaves on this thing. So then I had to figure out what was happening there and then move it again and deal with that. So it finally leveled off to the point where it was not getting any worse, and it's starting to bounce back now. In fact, if you look here, that's new green, new growth right there, which is a good sign. It means it's not declining, it's coming back. So it's going to be a slow and steady climb. It's kind of a touchy stage right now because sometimes when trees are like this and they're suffering, you can defoliate it. When you defoliate a tree, occasionally what can happen is it causes it to then regrow all of its leaves and in a new flush growth, and sort of just forces it to recover. That's not something I want to do in this case because it's already weak. It does weaken the tree when you defoliate it, even if it's a little. So you really only want to do that if A, the tree is in great health, or B, as if you really know what you're doing and it's kind of a last resort and you know that doing it is going to force it to recover. So that's not the case here. This was not a time when I wanted to do that. So I'm gonna have to take the long, slow route for this one here to come back. So give you a little spinny spin. It'll do fine. It'll bounce back. I know it will. It's just kind of unfortunate that it suffered right after the repot. But anyways, that's a look here at the dwarf pomegranate bonsai. Let's look at another. All right, so here is one of the tiger bark ficuses that I worked on and posted a video on a few months ago. I just pruned this one the other day because it had overgrown a lot. It was really busting out growth, so it's doing great. It did not suffer at all. So I pruned it back, and I sort of switched up the style of it a little bit because I wasn't real happy with the branch structure. It was just kind of all over the place. So decided to go with a different style. So as you can see here, the new leader, the trunk comes up, and then the leader comes out to there. So that's going to be sort of the style that I go with, and then these will be some supporting branches. Once this, what I'd like to see is more leaves and smaller branches coming off right about here. And if I can get that, then I can take this part off and have this as one of those lower sort of supporting branches. Same story here. I'd like to see the same. Now, whether or not it does what I want it to do is a different story. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I bent it up and put some wires on it, some guy wires just to hold it in place. This one, obviously, I don't know what happened here, but it's not really, I don't know what's going on there. Maybe the branch just sort of, I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, and what I did there, just in case you're ever in a situation like this and you want to put in some guy wires, but you have nothing to hook it onto, I just stuck the wire from the bottom up through the top. And then see if I can do this without making a huge mess. I took I don't know if you were able to see that, but anyways, I took a piece of metal, and so the wire coming out of the bottom, wrapped it around the piece of metal that was going this way, and so that way it's pulling and it won't go up through the hole. Then took that same wire, made a little loop-de-loop for these to grab onto, and so it's anchored that way. Anyways, that's a long story of how I did the guy wire, but that's how this tiger bark ficus is doing. And I kept some of the cuttings to try to propagate it a little bit. It's kind of hard this time of year to do that, but you know, if you're anything like me, you know it's hard to throw away big cuttings. It's just kind of in my blood to try and propagate them. I'll give them away as gifts or something. Anyways, let's look at the tiger bark ficus. Let's look at a couple others. All right, here is the Katsura Japanese maple. This one does look like it's struggling a bit, although I'll say it's not from doing the repotting, which is what I thought was possible, but that's not what caused it. It actually did thrive for a while, and it put out a bunch of new growth, and the repotting didn't slow it down at all. But what happened is that it just got sunburnt. Let me give you a closer look here at some of the leaves. So, as you can see, it got too much full sun for a while and it got away from me, and unfortunately a lot of leaves got burned. So, lost a lot of the foliage here on top as a result. You can see, let me back this up a little bit here. There we go. So you can see if I spin it around here, this is the spot that was shaded. So you can see it's still very green and doing okay. A little bit of burned leaves on top, but these are doing great. So it's still healthy. It's going to be fine. But unfortunately, it just looks like hell right now because of that. So I am going to do a little work to it anyways, just because something else. You can see these, hopefully you can get a decent look here, but it has these really long internodes on some of these branches. So there's a set of buds, and then nothing all through here, and then here's a set of buds. So you've got this huge space, this huge internode space on some of these. So I'm going to have to prune it back, and I'm going to do it sooner rather than later, because one thing I've learned is you don't want to prune Japanese maples in the fall. And we're still not in fall yet, but we're getting close. So I'm going to do it now while it has time to heal up a little bit. That way it's not susceptible to bacterias and certain types of fungus that get into Japanese maples in the fall and winter time. A little backstory on that, you might see some other ones that I've posted, and actually the last video on this one. The whole reason I repotted it was because it had these little spots on it, and I was afraid it might have caught a certain type of bacteria. Turns out it did not, because it didn't get any worse, and still doing fine now. But I've lost other trees in the past due to that, where I pruned it in the fall, and then going into the fall, that open wound just let the bacteria in and killed the tree. So, long story short there is I'm going to do a little bit of damage control on these long internodes and get rid of some of these burnt leaves, and you know, just prune it while I still have a little bit of time, and that way it can heal up before the winter, and then it can live through the winter. Look at the back. Yeah, it's not looking great. I would not at all call this thing pretty right now. But it's also not too far gone. It's having a bad hair day. Think of it like that. We all have bad hair days, and this is no different. It'll bounce back just fine. We'll just get rid of these burnt leaves and trim down these long internodes, and you know, it'll recover over the winter, and next spring and summer it'll look great. And I'll be more careful not to keep it in the full sun when it gets really hot. So that's a look at the Katsura Japanese maple. So this is a fun little new addition that I picked up recently. I bought this at a little boutique store that I was at with my girlfriend one day. They had some plants, and you know, they weren't like a bonsai store or anything. They mostly had succulents and plants and some succulent type pots and that type of stuff. But I happened to catch this one in there, and I went, ooh, that's interesting. It is a willow leaf ficus. I've never had one before. This is my first. It's got some issues. It's going to take some work over time. I've got a video that just a real quick, like 30-second look at the interior branching that I'll post here in a second. But it's got a lot of branches coming out of the same location, so it's kind of a mess inside there, which I don't know, maybe it's somewhat normal for a willow leaf ficus. This is my first one, but this is the style that I saw from all the research I did on these. So I just kind of stuck with the same style, got rid of a few branches, did a little bit of a root prune. It's got a few yellowing leaves here, which is somewhat normal. I know ficuses and just trees in general, they get a little sad after a prune, so some of the leaves will fall off occasionally. But I can also see some new growth here and there and some of the tips, so it'll be fine. But yeah, this is a look at my new addition, the Willow leaf ficus. So I'm going to post a video here now where you can see an inside look at some of the branching. So right here. Okay, so that's a look at the inside. So that's it on this. I don't have much else to say about it now. I do love the taper. I mean, it's kind of extreme. It comes from here and then just like goes extremely skinny, but that'll even out over time, I think. I did a big, you can see a scar here from a big root prune. Sorry I didn't make a video on doing it. I just sort of spontaneously got a wild hair and just did it one day. So, but that's a look at that. So let me show you a couple more. All right, so this is a Siberian elm. I've posted lots of videos on Siberian elms. I started with just one big Siberian elm, and it grew and grew, and then I took a bunch of cuttings off of it one year, and most of the cuttings took. So I made a forest out of some of the cuttings, which I put a video on last year. And then this one I just sort of been growing, not doing much with it. I actually have posted a video on this one before, but just as sort of a training video on how to prune a bonsai tree. So I'll put the link for that right here. And that was last year. So this had overgrown a lot since then. It was at more of a steep lean backward. So it was kind of like, it was more like this until I repotted it the other day. And the leaves had, I mean, it was just a bush. It was all over the place. So I liked the movement, and you know, I thought it had some potential. It's still very young. It has a long way to go. As you can see, the trunk is still very skinny compared to the pot that it's in, and I did that on purpose just because I wanted to give it a lot of room to grow in here. And I didn't want to prune much of the roots this time of year. Being September, you know, it's not the time of year to be doing that. But luckily, these Siberian elms, they grow like weeds, so you almost can't kill them. I wouldn't try, but I'm just saying they're super tough, so they can take it. Nonetheless, I didn't want to be too rough with it, so I didn't prune the roots too hard. So I just put it in a nice big size pot, and you know, I'm excited to see how this goes in the future. So I like the movement of it so far. And these Siberian elms, I've said it before, I'll say it again, they're just a lot of fun for bonsai trees because they grow super fast. You can do all kinds of cuts and styles and experiments and all kinds of fun stuff, and they can just, you know, play along. They take it for the team. So if you don't have one, I'd pick one up. You can get them anywhere, literally the side of the road, vacant parking lot. They just grow in the cracks of sidewalks. So keep your eyes open and dig one up if you ever get a chance. They're a lot of fun. So that's my Siberian elm. Okay, just a couple more here. So this is my single trunk Schefflera that I've been working on for a few years now, about 3 years, 4 years, something like that, give or take. It started off as an office plant for someone, and then when we moved offices, he said, "Hey, Toy, you like plants and stuff, right?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, here you go." And this thing was like 6 foot tall. It was all scraggly looking, you know, it was not a bonsai yet. So it's taken some work, but I've got it down to bonsai shape. Now, why is it in this cheapo, ugly pot instead of the cool pot that I posted a video on right here last year? Because one day I came home and went out to water the trees, and this had fallen somehow. I don't know if a squirrel did it or what, but it had fallen off of the bench that it was on and on the ground and out of the pot. It was just laying there, you know, root ball all exposed. And so if you've ever experienced that, you'll know what happens. You have a little mini heart attack for a second. You're like, oh my gosh, how long has it been like this? I don't know. So I put it into rehab. I picked it up, put it in a deeper pot with there's some sphagnum moss in there. I wrapped the roots in sphagnum moss and then surrounded the sphagnum moss with good bonsai soil, and just kept it in shade for a little while, and it was fine. Oddly enough, it never really skipped a beat. So I will be doing a repot on this probably within 6 months or so, just to get it in something better looking than this. But as you can see, it's doing great. It's almost sort of conflicted because it's almost like a raft style in a way. That's my own fault. I just didn't want to get crazy with it once I found it on the ground, but a lot of this trunk is sort of buried. So I'm going to see how much of that I can undo and expose more of that trunk, maybe bring it up a little more like that. But we'll see. These Scheffleras are tough. So I'm sure if I do that, might look weird for 6 months or a year, but then it'll adapt and do fine. So it does need some pruning. Now that it's recovered, it's kind of going crazy. So I'll probably do some little bit of pruning on it here soon, just to get it in shape. You know, we've got some leaves going behind there, and got some going down right here. So it just needs a little tidying up and all. But all in all, I've always loved this one. I just love the movement on it, as you can see. It's got some great movement, and it's just been a lot of fun. So that's my single trunk Schefflera. So I'm going to show you one more, and then we'll wrap it up here. All right, last but not least, this is my what I've always referred to as my work bonsai, though it is no longer at work because I've switched jobs, and so now it's just another home bonsai, because I needed more home bonsais. If you can't tell, I just need as many as I can get. Anyways, it's doing great. It's taken off so much so, I mean, you can really actually just see a difference just in the color alone of the leaves. If you look, you know, you got like light green, which is new growth, and dark green, which is old growth, and so it's doing good. But the one thing I cannot get this thing to do, no matter what I try, I want it to grow out here, and it won't do it. This is the backside. It's got all these branches up top just crowding each other. So yeah, I could wire it, and I'm probably gonna have to, but I just really wanted more growth coming out of here. Yet to get it to do that. But nonetheless, this being the front, you can see it's doing well. I like the structure of it. I am gonna have to prune it down here shortly. I don't want to do it right in the middle of when it's growing, because that's just usually puts an immediate stop to the growth. Tree goes into kind of a hold on what's happening here mode. So I don't want to stop the growth. I'm going to let it sort of finish out this flush of growth that it's doing, and then once it kind of looks like it's done, then I'll start making some decisions then on which branches to keep, which ones to take back. I can already tell you, like some of these, like this one here, you see, I'll probably have to take this one back. I'll have to do some hard pruning because it's just too long and straight there. So I'll have to take this one back. Also, it's very close to this, which is good in some ways and bad in others. You do want ramification like that, but not when that's the only spot. It's just not conforming to the rest of it, so it's not uniform in any way. Anyways, that's a lot of just petty complaining. It's all in all, it's doing great. I don't really have anything to complain about. It's very healthy. It's doing well, and I'm very happy with it. So that's a look at my my work bonsai, my Ficus benjamina. So let's wrap it up. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching today. I appreciate everybody who watches and likes and subscribes. So I do appreciate you, and I hope you enjoyed the update that I did here on some of these trees. I've got a lot more updates coming. I don't know when, just because I got to figure out the right timing is always the issue with some of these trees. I want to time it right with some of the cuts and replots that I do. But you can bet that I'm going to be doing a lot more videos now that I'm kind of settled in my new place and in my new job. So thanks again for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe. That way you can see more updates on these trees and all the other trees that I've got too. And you can see my successes and failures, because I'll post my failures too, at least most of them, when there's something to talk about. Just because I learned from watching on YouTube, and that's why I do this, so that other people can learn too. And we learn best from failure. So I try to post the failures too. So Anyways, thanks for watching and have a good rest of your night.